This is Reimagining Abilities. Stories of the Charles Lea Center's impact supporting individuals with disabilities so they can be a part of the communities where they live, work, and play. Join us now in Reimagining Abilities. And we welcome you to another edition of Reimagining Abilities, a Charles Lea Center podcast. My name is Richard Edmond, and we thank you for joining us today. Joining us in our studio is Suzan Mason. She is the Senior Director of Supportive Living for the Charles Lea Center. Lekeila Young is the Director of Supportive Living, and thank you both for taking time to be with us today.
No problem. Enjoy.
Suzan, we'll start with you.
I'm good.
What is supportive living?
Supportive living is a group of programs that provides different supports and services for people with developmental disabilities or head and spinal cord injuries. And these programs are based on the person's needs, what skills they need either help to do or to learn to do. And we just make assessments of people to determine where their needs are and what we can do to support them, and then we provide the services for them.
And Lekeila, tell us about some of the services that you do provide.
Some of those services include, of course, housing. Definitely either within our group homes or within the community. It can be just training on how to be more independent.
It's a lot. I know that you guys really juggle a lot of balls in the air at one time,
right,
with all of the things that you manage. How did this program become about?
In the early 70s, most people lived in an institution. The state had 4 state institutions, and they started looking toward community involvement for people. So they started moving people out of the institutions into larger homes than we have now, usually 12 to 15 bed homes. And then through the years, that just changed as we realized that, really we're making many institutions in the community, so let's do something different. And they started, a big push was toward the 4-bed homes for people that live together in a home and have staff that come in and out on different shifts. And then in the early to mid 80s, they started the supervised living program with the, apartment living, having people live in apartments and staff come into their apartments whenever the need was. And then that developed into some other apartment type programs, as well as some other. Charles Lea Center has a lot of kind of derivatives of the typical programs.
And Lekeila, I know that a lot of these homes just blend right into the neighborhoods. You would never know what's there unless you knew.
They do. People are often surprised when they, find out this is a Charles Lea house in the neighborhood, because it looks just like any house that, you or I will live in. One of my individuals is my neighbor where I live in my apartment complex. So it's like, when people see, we speaking, like, who's that? Hey, he's at Charles Lea. So you never know. They just blend right in, and that's how we want it to be, because they are a part of the community.
And are the neighbors welcoming?
Very welcoming. Definitely. We're in some great neighborhoods, I think. Yeah. So,
Suzan, what have you learned over the years from this job through trial and error to make this work?
How long is this podcast?
As long as you need it to be.
One thing that I appreciate that we've done throughout the years is we do a lot of planning, because we don't want to fail. So we plan for, okay, what might happen, and deal with those too, because we are being watched by the community, by the other people in the state, and you don't want to have a huge failure, because I really feel like in these type programs and this with people with disabilities, you only get one chance, and then people are going to say, oh, they can't live in the community, they can't live in an apartment, they can't do that. So we've been very good about doing the planning, and that was kind of by trial and error that we learned to plan so well. But the other is, especially with the apartment program, because I helped when it was very new, building the relationship with the apartment management and stuff, so that going in that you have somebody that's going to be supportive of what you're trying to do.
What are some of the success stories from over the years?
You know, I think some of our biggest success stories are people that if you were to look at them, you'd say, wow, they could never live by themselves. You know, their mom's going to have to keep them. And we have one or two, you know, that we've done videos on, that people that are, for the most part, total care. They can do very little for themselves. Maybe they can feed themselves. Maybe they can, you know, use some devices, but we've managed to support them in apartments with staff not right there in their face. And that was a dream and a desire of theirs, was to not have staff coming in and out of their house and in and out of their room, or just stay in there in their area. So we've been very lucky to be able to help them realize their dreams and provide them a safe place, but to give them their space that they wanted. I would say those are some of our biggest success stories.
I think those are the biggest ones. And, you know, people are amazed to see those stories because they wouldn't expect it.
Right.
And I did a story, profiled a gentleman here years ago whose mother was not, she didn't think that maybe he could do it on his own, and he had to push and prove her wrong.
Yes, he did.
And even she said that I had doubts. How do you reassure the parents in those situations?
Like Susan said, it takes a lot of prep work. You know, we did the trial and error in the past, so you know, just showing them what the history has been, showing them those success stories. And I think that's the joy of it now, is because when we have those new people who's wanting to take that journey, we have people who already has been through the journey, so we can tell them those success stories. You know, go over that with the family, and just let them know that, you know, there's possibilities. We have so much things now that can help with that, the technology. So, you know, they automatically think they're just going to be out there. No, they're going to have support, but it just may look a little different.
And that's, I was getting there next, the technology that you're able to implement. I mean, some of it's off the shelf that we take for granted,
Right.
that really makes a difference. Susan, how do you feel about the technology that gives so much freedom now?
You know, I think that is probably one of the most exciting things that's been happening in the last few years.
Yes.
And we had a gentleman that lived in one of our homes that he really was total care, and he made a comment that if technology could help a person like him, it could help anybody. And that was so special. But even to allow people that have to live in the larger group homes the ability to have some control over their environment, things we take for granted, like turning off the lights when we leave a room, or opening and closing the door by ourselves, or calling out for help. Now they have abilities through their iPads and their Echo Dots and Nucleus and different kinds of devices, that then they can be more self-reliant in those areas. And that's big. I mean, we think about the technology for people that are able to use it, but for the folks that have never really had that ability or that experience, for them to now have that, it's been huge, I think, for folks.
Definitely. You can see that their lives have changed from it. You know, you see it by the smiles on their faces, their attitudes have changed, you know, they're happier people, you know, and everybody around them, because it's not just helping them, it's helping the staff as well. So it's enhancing lives, definitely.
What's in store for the future for this group?
You know,
I think great things.
yeah, it's
Definitely great things.
It can be wide open. We're lucky we have a great support with the innovative technology people, and they are always looking at things and finding things. And probably the coolest thing we had a few weeks ago was a loan of a mechanical arm that we were able to use. You can set the person's plate up and set the rate, and it will actually feed the person.
Right.
And if you know, to think that we have things like that that could then free up staff to monitor the person more closely and keep an eye on the other people in the house, rather than having to concentrate just on feeding somebody, and to give the person that ability. But you know, I think the future's wide open,
It
and we're
is.
open to ideas. We're always dreaming. We're always thinking. people say, oh, I saw this, and we're like, wow, we could try that. So we're always looking for new ways to do things. One of the goals always is to figure out ways that we're over supporting people, and what can we do differently so that they don't have to rely on the staff support if they don't need it. We got a lot of potential for things. I think.
We definitely do. I think that's the most exciting part, for the future, just to see what is to come, because we've done so much already, and there's so much to do because we have many other dreams to fulfill for the people who's here. So.
Yeah, I feel like I say this a lot, but it's true. It really is. The Charles Lea Center has been at the forefront of most of these changes, not just in South Carolina,
Right.
but on a national level.
Yes.
What does that say about this organization, and more importantly, the people involved in doing this?
It's very exciting for us. It's very, we enjoy having the people from the other states and other areas come and visit so we can share ideas and hear what they're doing and they can hear what we're doing. But I think it's especially good that we're being respected as somebody who kind of isn't taking no for an answer. We're always kind of pushing it a little bit farther and saying, okay, that was great. We helped that guy get an apartment even though his mom didn't want him to have one, but okay, what's next?
Right.
What can we do next to, I don't want to say kind of top that, but okay, to top that, what's our next step?
Yeah.
So.
And do you find that to be a nice challenge? That
It is. I mean, it really is, because like I said, new things are, happening every day. The world is changing every day, so we have to consistently change and keep going and being more innovative, because people change. And as people change, we have to change along with them.
And this right here is the attitude that makes it all happen right here. It's a group effort, but it's people that have that, we're not going to take no for an answer.
Right.
So, Lekeila Young, Suzan Mason, thank you both so much for joining us today.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Thank you for having us.
And we thank you for tuning into this edition of Reimagining Abilities. We will see you next week.